Hey, not everyone is going to understand why this feels like such a special time and moment and milestone, but I'm hoping that you will and that you will join me in celebrating because earlier this week, my very own page went live on Jackson's art, which to me feels absolutely amazing and crazy to say. And this page, which is fantastic, if I do say so myself, and of course I am completely 100% biased, highlights my favorite art supplies. And I just love that now they will all be in one place so that you can find them and so that we can enjoy them together. I thought that it would be nice to create this video so that we can celebrate together and kind of reminisce on some of my favorite supplies. For the full list, be sure to check out my page on Jackson's, which I will leave linked down below in the description for you. Now, I am notoriously bad at introducing myself, but the channel has been growing so much recently, like our whole community has been growing, so it makes sense for me to say hi and to introduce myself a little bit. I am a mixed media artist based in the UK, and I love painting with gouache and with watercolor primarily, but I also really love adding other supplies to them to make them shine. The things that I love creating the most are landscapes and florals and abstract pieces, like completely abstract pieces as well. That being said, I'm also drawn to paint and draw other things because ultimately I love creating both at home in my studio but also outdoors, whether it be plein air painting, urban sketching, travel sketching, whatever medium, whatever form, whatever way, if it involves painting, creating art outdoors and traveling, I'm down. I absolutely love it. And so I have created loads of videos sharing all of that and more, as well as just my passion and I guess my art journey through time with you. I have made myself a mental promise. I will reply to every comment in this video. I will do it come what may. Trust this to be the video that will then get like 1 million views. Can you imagine? If you are new, then please feel free to say hi. And if you are a long-standing member, then a really heartfelt thank you, because this wouldn't have been possible without you. And so I am really, really grateful and I really, really appreciate you. And yeah, let's start talking about my suppliers. Which ones? So it was actually quite hard for me to narrow it down, especially because I kind of feel like, how can I say something is my favorite without trying everything out, which is weird because this is not a philosophy that I employ in any other area apart from art. Like in art, I'm like, oh, I need to try everything and then I'll know. But in life, that's genuinely not the way that I am. So I eventually was able to narrow down my list. And when you see this full list, you'll be like, really, this is narrow, but it is for me. And to start things off, I wanted to highlight watercolors. And of course, I love watercolors because they are just so expressive and they are easy to paint with, in terms of the fact, like, nice and easy cleanup, nice and easy to take out and paint with you. You only need a palette, a brush and paper. Like, I just loved the ease of it. That's how I got into it initially. But then the more you start painting, the more you realize that you can get such a wide range of effects, from something that looks photorealistic to something that's completely abstract. I love the fact that it can be transparent and, you know, you layer it nicely, or you can use opaque colors. I just love the properties of watercolor and the way that it looks. And the more I've been painting with watercolor, the more I learn about it, the more unpredictable it is sometimes, but it's still just a joy to use. And so when it came to highlighting my favorite watercolors, if you've watched my videos for long enough, you'll probably know exactly what I'm going to say, and that is that one of my first mentions is Szmal watercolors Aquarius, and I love them. I have loved them for years. It's funny because you can see the evolution of me using them throughout the years across my channel. I've made over 15, if not more, videos talking about them, swatching them, painting with them, the whole works, because they are just really wonderful paints, and I just really love them. What I really enjoy about them, to be, I guess, more objective, is that they reactivate beautifully. They have a wide range of colours, and they have colours that are perhaps more classical, simple yellows and reds and pinks and browns and, you know, the more classical colors that you would expect, but then they also have some standout colors that no one else has, and some beautiful, brilliantly granulating colors as well, but then also transparent ones. I just really enjoy the full range. And I feel like because the range is so varied and the quality is so high, they really are a brand that most people will love and enjoy and really make the most of. The thing is, I feel like ultimately, you know, especially when you get to a certain grade of art supplies, they all behave and perform beautifully, but they have different strengths, and it's just a question of picking which art supplies lean into the art that you like to create and that you enjoy to create. But that being said, I know it's getting harder and harder to know what is a paid promotion and unpaid promotion and whatnot on the internet. So this is not paid promotion. I do use affiliate links, but these are just supplies that if you watch the over 300 videos I have made thus far, you'll see used over and over and over again. Nothing will be a surprise to you. I did also in some places like extend the list a bit. So I have my very, very favorites, but then also I know that there are some that I would enjoy, and depending on where you are in the world, they may be more easily accessible for you. So that's kind of how I created this list, and here are the swatches of the top 30 Roman Szmal Aquarius watercolors. And these colors, this is actually a video on YouTube, but these colors were picked by me, but most of them actually by you, by viewers who have used Roman Szmal and thus kind of highlighted their favorite colors, the standout colors. Although this list is kind of a few years old, so it might be worth us doing another one again. Let me know what you think. But I think it highlights what I love about Roman Szmal, and that's the fact that you do get some of the, you know, more standard, more traditional split primary colors, but then you also get some special, really unique colors that you don't get anywhere else. And then also you get beautiful colors, beautiful mixes, granulating, non-granulating, and it just really lent itself well for me to my art style. And so for example, this is like Potter's Pink, which I love because it's actually pink and it's very heavily granulating, whereas I find a lot of Potter's Pinks are more brown leaning. I also love all the greys, going from Misty Morning, which really shines when you water it down, through to Shabish Grey, which is stunning. Then the greens. I mean, as I said, I love painting landscapes and florals, so it's probably no surprise that I love greens. But the Aquarius green is just beautiful, and one of those greens that does the work for you. Like, because it granulates so beautifully, it just looks more organic, more natural when I'm using it in my painting. And then Hooker's green is like my equivalent of the sap green. Olive green is beautiful. Autumn green is just a really nice and unique color as well. So that's my point, like, just beautiful. Beautiful colors. And to kind of highlight a little bit more, just want to show you some swatches so that you can see if they are right for you. And so these are some of the swatches that I have, and you can feel free to like pause if you need to. Oh yeah, the greens actually. So for the greens, as I said, I love greens, so I swatched them out here, but then I also made a video for members where I did some different mixes, because the whole point and the beauty of watercolor and any paint medium really is that you can make your own mixes, and you can make some really cool and interesting mixes with a limited palette or a big palette. And so there's just something for everyone, which I absolutely love. So here I was actually just doing mixes of my greens with Roman Szmal, and here these are the colors as is. And then we have some more grays, blacks, some purples, and there are some earth colors, reds and oranges, which I haven't swatched yet. I know, shameful. And that's just, yeah, I need to go back and do that. And then it's so funny because a few years ago I was doing like these swatches, basically swatching out buff titanium with different colors that came in a set, just so that it was when I got the urban sketching set by Roman Szmal, and I wanted to see, you know, a lot of the time we talk about the strength of buff titanium being on the mixing, and so I wanted to demonstrate that in the video and kind of show some of the different mixes that you can get with it. And then Roman Szmal did an interview, and in it he was asked, what is the most underrated color in your opinion, and he actually said it's buff titanium for this very reason. So that was really interesting. Then this, so if you cover this bit, oh okay. But so here, these are 5 colors that come in one of the sets, which is really lovely because you can then make this range of mixes with them. So you get the primaries, and then you also get the Aquarius green and a Caput Mortem. So if you want more than, I want to say 2 or 3 colors, it would be cheaper for you to buy this entire set than to buy them individually. So be sure to check it out, especially if you want to get the Aquarius green, Caput Mortem, and any one of of the other colors. If I could make one change to this set, it would be that I would have like a magenta instead of an Aquarius red, but that's just me, personal preference, because I love purples and pinks and I don't really use the warm reds. But that being said, it's still a great set. And as you can see, you can make a wide range of different mixes. When it comes to the sets that I have by Szmal, this one is my favorite set. It's actually called the Essential set. This is the paper it comes with, and these are the colors swatched on the back and swatched on here, which is 100% cotton watercolor paper. And I just love this set because it has pretty much the vast majority of my favorite colors inside it. I just think it has a beautiful wide range. I know it's tricky to get at the moment, but my hope is that it will get easier to find in places. Time will tell, but the thing that I love is that there's also lots of other great sets. There's the Mona Rani set, the urban sketching set, travel set. There's a lot of sets. A special palette that I have is this. So these three papers here, I'm essentially swatching out my very first Szmal palette. So I picked out these colors and I made a video on my membership highlighting why I picked them out and the different mixes that I make with them. But yeah, it feels so special because it was years ago and so much has changed since. But I had an understanding of like split primaries, and I'd been doing the 100-day challenge, so I was painting or drawing every day for 100 days, and so I had an understanding of the colors that I wanted, and I decided to just pick them out from Szmal. And I have to admit, I was hesitant to pick them out to kind of highlight some of the artwork that I have made with them. I will share these first, and then as we talk about my favorite papers, I will share some more of the pieces that I have made. The one caveat I will give to this paintings is that the gold is actually Etcher's gold, and I am Etcher's ambassador, and I just love it. So when you're seeing the gold, is actually Etcher's gold, but the other colors are Szmal, and they are just wonderful. Both are my favorites. It's so funny actually with the Etcher's gold because you can clearly see the before and after I started using them, because once I started using them, gold pretty much featured in all my florals since, or the vast majority of my florals. But as you can see, the colors are just beautiful and unique. And oh, I remember I went through this was like I did all of these in one go, essentially, when I just kept having this internal battle over what I should paint versus what I wanted to paint. And eventually I was like, you know what, I'm just going to paint whatever I want to paint using whatever supplies I want with no regard. And these are the paintings that I created in practically one sitting. It was like an explosion of creativity, all using Szmal paints, and I loved it. I had such a good day. I need to do that again. Here are some more of the swatches. These are the new colors that came in 2023, and since then there've just been a lot more colors and a lot of different releases. And in part I'm kind of showing you this as well because I want to highlight that in part there is a joy that comes from the art supplies, I can't deny that, but then also there is a joy that comes from, most importantly, creating art, but also just playing around, experimenting, swatches, seeing what does what. Like, you know, it's going to be different for everyone, but I definitely recommend just enjoying your supplies and playing with them and experimenting with them, and you'll be surprised how much fun that can be. This is a palette that I made for Thailand, so that's the other thing that I really enjoyed doing, and that's putting together colors or palettes to represent a place that I'm going to if I'm traveling somewhere. Like I've got my Italy palettes as well, but also sometimes it's like I have a favorites palette. It's just a winter palette, a summer palette. And I don't necessarily keep them intact the whole time, but the thing that I find really fun about them is that it gets me to look at all my colors and to think about colors together, think about them as like just as palettes, how they can represent something, as opposed to like a standalone color. How do they work with others? Just another fun exercise to consider. It's so funny because the very first time that I saw the Szmal paints, I actually didn't buy them, and they were the cheapest I'd ever seen them, which is crazy. I didn't buy them because I was worried that they would be student grade, or they would be chalky, or they wouldn't be good paints. I had just bought some highly rated paints from Amazon that were dreadful, and and it really felt like I had been penny wise pound foolish, and I didn't want to make that same mistake again. I also, at the same time, had some wonderful, wonderful paints that I will touch on later that I really enjoyed. But I was just, whenever I would use them, I just felt so apprehensive about the cost that I just couldn't paint freely with them. For the longest time, I had this feeling where I didn't feel like I could use certain supplies. Like I would kind of feel like my skills went up to par to use those supplies. I didn't feel like I warranted the expense that they involved. And so for the longest time, and again, you can see it through my channel, I wouldn't use certain supplies. I wouldn't use the best of my supplies. I wouldn't use the good paper. I wouldn't use any of that because I didn't really feel like my skills were up to par enough to use them. And now, thankfully, I don't do that anymore. I use the supplies that I love and that I enjoy, and I love creating art even more than I ever have as a result of it. And Roman Szmal were part of the reason that I kind of started being able to do that. I then looked online to see if I could find like any videos or reviews to kind of let me know about these Roman Szmal paints. And I couldn't find any videos, I couldn't find any reviews, and I couldn't find any websites. So I was like, yeah, no, I'm not getting this. Like, that's wild. Like, no one's talking about them. I can't even find them online. I don't know what they are, but I'm not getting them. And so I did not buy them in that sale. And then a few months later, they came on sale again, and they were like at the front of the Jackson's page again. And I remembered them from before because I'd kind of been umming and ahhing. And so I was like, you know what? They fit my budget. To be perfectly honest, I was like, okay, no one has talked about them. There are no videos, but you know what? They're on Jackson's and they fit my budget. So let me try them out and see. And so I bought 17 colors. And I've made a video, I think I made a video at the time kind of highlighting my very first palette, and I've made a more detailed video for my art members talking through why I specifically picked those colors. At this point, I had finished my 100-day challenge of painting, and so I had a bit of a better understanding of the kind of colors that I liked using, or, you know, you can see my first sketchbook tour. I also had bought like the split primary colors before, and I had a basic understanding of color theory. So this kind of informed the colors that I got. And then I got a few colors that honestly just look special. And I was like, you know what? They're affordable. Let me throw them in there and see what happens. And so I got the first 17 colors and I loved them. Like, I fell head over heels in love with them. They were just so nice, so great. They reactivated beautifully. The colors were wonderful. They behaved in a really nice way. They were so pigmented, like so much more pigmented than some of the other paints I'd used before. There was no chalk. It was just like night and day. And so I fell in love with the paints and I started making videos about them because there weren't any. And I was like, how's no one talked about how amazing these paints are? And I would make these videos, and it's so funny because they're still there and you can watch them. And like towards the end, I would be like, by the way, like the prices for them are so great right now. It doesn't make sense. Like, they are student grade prices for professional grade paints. It won't be the case forever. Get them, basically. Always my videos, it'll be like, yeah, like I love them, zero regrets, the price don't make sense, they're amazing, get them. And then I reached out to them a couple of times over the next few months to years. I didn't hear back, but I kept messaging them because I loved the paints, you know, and I'd kind of wanted to know if there was an opportunity to work together. Every so often I would paint with them. I would remember how much I loved them still, and I would write to them again. And then eventually Roman Szmal, the man himself, wrote to me, and it feels like the rest is history. A lot happened since then, but basically he wrote to me, which is crazy. I thought that it was an employee signing off as Roman Szmal because that's the company, but no, it was him. It was him himself, and he sent me like the most incredible gift. And you have to bear in mind, this was years, I'd been using them for years already, and I loved using them. And he sent me the entire range of watercolors. And I still remember when I got them. I remember just being shocked. I remember laying them out on my couch and just like watching them. I could not believe it. Like, I couldn't believe it because I loved the paint. I just didn't expect it. I really didn't expect it. And I think he sent them to me. He didn't ask anything of me. He just, you know, had kind of thanked me for my messages. I was very much blown away by his generosity. I don't know what else to say. I was just very much touched, very much blown away. And And in a world where it kind of feels like everyone's trying to get something out of you, it just felt rare. Very rare to have someone send something to me. And I'm guessing, of course, he thought, I may make a video about it or a couple of videos, but he didn't pressure me. He didn't say anything like that. He just gave me a bit of context into the business. And I know that a lot of the time there's the thought that they're a big corporation because they are doing so many great things and you kind of see them everywhere and you would assume so. But they're actually a small family owned business doing big things. And that is why, like he was the one replying to me and why no one had really talked about them, because they are a small business. And I think that I had loved the watercolors for years, but after actually getting to email Roman and speak to him, I then fell in love with the company and I just love them for that reason. So since then, every so often, I have received some paints from Roman Szmal, but I have also, as you will have seen, bought so many paints myself. And it's funny because I got to meet him in Italy. That's like another story, because I was standing in the corner trying to figure out how to introduce myself, to be like, hey, I'm, the person you email. Like, how does one do that? I thought it'd be a bit weird because we'd never met in person. I didn't know if he'd know what I look like. And anyway, as I was standing in the corner trying to figure out how to introduce myself, he then came over and he was like, oh, I know who you are. And I was like, oh my gosh, he recognizes me, which to me was crazy. But yeah, he was just so sweet and so lovely, and just even more lovely in person. Again, like I said, I'd been in love with the watercolors for a long time, and this was my way of kind of, I guess, falling in love with the company as a whole. And so when I was there, it's funny because I bought some watercolors, and I've shared that in a video as well. But basically, I remember he was teasing me because he was like, you have all my colors, like you have so many watercolors and yet you keep buying. And and it's very true. And it's in part because I want to support the business. I love the colors, I love the watercolor, I have many palettes, and I want to support the business. And so I put my money where my mouth is and I buy the colors. So that's the Roman Szmal paints. And as you will have seen, a lot of the time, a lot of the paintings that I have done, they have been with the Roman Szmal watercolors. And I feel like that's a testimony in themselves, because you can see how they behave and you can see the colors and you can see the way that they look, and they are absolutely beautiful and stunning. And so, yes, Roman Szmal are one of my absolute favorite art supplies, and of course are also featured on Jackson's. Now, the next brand is what helped me realize that actually I love professional quality watercolors. Like before then, I don't think I fully appreciated that there was a difference. I just kind of kept using, my student grade paints, which were serving me well at the time. But when I started painting with this paint brand, I then struggled to go back. In fact, didn't really go back. This brand is, of course, Daniel Smith. And again, if you've been on my channel long enough, you will know that these Roman Szmal and Daniel Smith are my favorite watercolors. Daniel Smith, I just love them. Same thing. Wonderful, beautiful colors, wide range of colors, wide range of properties, reliable quality, and beautiful colors, like beautiful standout colors. And I just thoroughly enjoy painting with them. You'll see that it's so funny because everything that I'm saying has been documented in a video. And so when I got them, I made a video putting them into pans, swatching them out, kind of talking about them and the decision that I'd made. And one of the things that I did after that is that I put my Daniel Smith watercolors with my Winsor & Newton Complementary paints. So I basically put them with student grade paints. And the reason that I did that was because I wanted to have one palette, and I wanted it to be the case that if I am feeling confident and like, oh yeah, I can use the good paints, I will bring out I will use my Daniel Smith watercolors. But if I kind of feel like I'm messing around or I don't want to mess it up, I'll use my student grade watercolors. And so they stayed in the same palette. And it was maybe like a weekend that I realized that I just stopped using the Cotman. Like I just so thoroughly enjoyed using the Daniel Smith that without thinking, I just kept using them over and over and over again, and topping them up and using them and topping them up and using them. And it was almost like my common paints were now there for decoration. They just, because the Daniel Smith colors were so vibrant, and I just loved the colors. I loved the way that they blended. I loved the way that they behaved. without even thinking about it, even though I had both brands in the palette, I was only using half of it. And so that's what kind of made me think, you know what, I need to upgrade my paints. Because I live in the UK, Daniel Smith is at a higher price point. But I just remember I loved painting with them, and I took them with me on trips and holidays and documented all of this through videos. But they are just really lovely, excellent quality watercolors, like, and so of course they are one of my favorite paints. And then when I was in Italy earlier on, I also had the pleasure of meeting John Cogley and Catherine and the Daniel Smith ambassadors as well, who were just so lovely and so nice and just gave me an even nicer insight into the company themselves. And I love the paints. What can I say? I love watercolors. What can I say? So I really, really enjoy them. And if you ask me, those two are my favorites. That being said, there are some honorable mentions that you will see on the list. And as you can see, I have quite a lot of colors of Daniel Smith too. One of my latest videos that I'll leave linked for you is actually me swatching out this Daniel Smith palette that I have and put together, and I absolutely loved. I kept running out of some of the same colors, which was so funny to discover and to really think about and reflect on. And those are the colors that I highlighted at the bottom here, which were Nickel Azo Yellow, Quin Rose, Piemontite, expensive taste, hey, Manganese Blue Hue, and Ultramarine Blue. I just kept running through these colors, and yeah, it's been a really inspiring summer, and I have just been painting non-stop. One of the things that I ask people is to kind of share their favorite colors as well, so the comments are a treasure trove for those who are interested. And I have the Daniel Smith dot cards, and I have done the swatches where I kind of highlight the different colors and the different properties so that I can keep a hold of them. But then I also randomly one day decided to do these, and my aim initially was to write the names, and then I just changed my mind because I just loved the way that they looked. So this isn't practical per se, because I can't necessarily tell what color it is without getting the dot card out, but it was just really nice to see the different colors and how they look. And again, you can see, you just get a good idea and a good range of like how many beautiful colors. It was really relaxing to do actually, and it is just lovely to look back on. And you can just like, I mean, even this one's kind of sparkling. I don't have all of them. I have the dot cards, which have all of them on there, but I do have, as you could see, a good amount. Even with that, there are still some colors that I just go back to time and time again. One of them is Core. And Core watercolors I love because they are vibrant, and I love because to me they are different to other paints. The way that they stand out is that they move across the page. Like they just move. They're bright, they're vibrant, and they move. They have character, they have personality. And the reason that for me they come with an asterisk is because they kind of feel like a special watercolor because of how much they move. They have a mind of their own. They really lean into the water controlling the paint, the watercolor part, you know, it's in the name. And so for me, they feel very much special, and they are colors that I'll use from time to time. But of course, because they move, there's a learning curve with them. And as I said, they feel like special watercolors. Then more recently, I have been painting with Sennelier watercolors, and they have been really lovely. And it's so funny because I'd actually sent it out to some of my art members a couple of months ago, and that was because I use Sennelier quite a lot, and I was replacing my tubes, but I never really made a video about them or mentioned them, or I hadn't even been that conscious mentally of the fact that I was actually using them, because I hadn't even panned them into a palette, if you will. It's just that from time to time I would bring them out, squeeze them out, paint with them. And when I realized that actually, I've run out of my Opera, I've run out of my Caput Mortem, I've run out of my Payne's Great, all by Sennelier, I was like, actually I use these paints, why haven't I shared this or used this, or, you know, or made a palette with them? And so I finally did. I bought a few more tubes. I made a video about it, 40% off, hey. A brand that we all kind of know about, but no one really talks about that much, or at least I wasn't talking about that much. And so I noted, like actually I do use them quite a lot, and they do have a reputation for being really good for glazing and for working in layers. And while doing my watercolor challenge, a watercolor workbook which I created and is available for members, I then started leaning into some of the strengths and my favorite parts of watercolor, and was using the Sennelier watercolors to do that. One of the things that I've really been enjoying is dedicating a period of time to using the same brand or the same colors over and over, so that I can learn them better and enjoy them better. So I definitely started having a better understanding and appreciation for Sennelier, and just really enjoying using them for their beautiful layering abilities. I dedicated some time to using specifically Sennelier paints and to learn them better, to understand how they work better, to lean into their strengths of layering and glazing and using watercolor in a more traditional way. And I really, really enjoyed using them. Now, I do feel like, if you're looking for the multiple colored granulating colors, so on and so forth, you're not really going to see that in Sennelier. But if you're looking for the more traditional watercolor colors and the more, I guess, traditional, transparent, nice and easy to layer kind of watercolors, then Sennelier is really lovely for that. And that is what I've been really enjoying using more recently. I think that ultimately, whatever brand you use or whatever palettes you use, dedicating some time to just painting with them so that you can learn how they behave will do wonders for your enthusiasm for creating, but also your understanding of your supplies. And that is what I've really enjoyed recently. And then one of the other honorable mentions that I had was Rosa Gallery, and they are currently one of the most affordable professional grade watercolors. Now, you remember that a few years ago I told you this about a brand, Szmal, and I said, this price don't make sense. It won't be like this forever. You remember that? Same kind of scenario, because their paints are wonderful. Still not 100% my favorite, but they do have a lot of standouts. And for the price at the moment, if someone was like, I need professional grade watercolors, what are the most affordable? They're Rosa Gallery, like they are. So those are my favorite watercolors at the moment, with of course Szmal and Daniel Smith being top number one. And sometimes my favorite art supply of all time is actually gouache, which, by the way, I think is massively underrated. Now, when it comes to gouache, I love all the ones that I've tried. I don't know what else to say. So my most used brand and my favorite is Winsor & Newton Designer Gouache. I have used this for years. I love the colors. I love the way that they behave. I love the opacity, the way that they feel. I just really enjoy them. And so they are my favorite. And also they are very easily accessible here in the UK. And I mention that because I know that sometimes abroad it is a lot more expensive, and I would thus take it with a pinch of salt and see what brands are available for you locally first. I just feel like gouache is, like I said, massively underrated, because you can use it watered down, you can use it in an opaque layer, you can layer it beautifully, you can layer on top of it in terms of with other mediums as well. It's just a really, really lovely paint medium to use. And so Winsor & Newton is my favorite, but then I love all the brands that I've used thus far, most of them, if they're on this list. So I love Daniel Smith, so creamy, such beautiful colors, such a lovely feel to them, so satisfying to use. Like, I really, really enjoyed them. But I'm in the UK, and so they are more than double the price of Winsor & Newton. But they're pretty nice. Some of my more recent discoveries and additions are Szmal and Holbein gouache, and I really enjoyed them. I love the consistency. They have some really unique colors, especially like when you compare them to more traditional gouaches as well. And they are also really enjoyable to use. The one thing I would say to watch out for is that a lot of the colors will have multiple pigments inside them, and also that some of the colors will not be light fast at all, like they will have dyes, so on and so forth. So I think it depends on how exactly you want to use them and what colors you are using. That being said, as for enjoying using them, I do. I just love gouache. The one that I haven't mentioned that may surprise some, is Schminke. And the reason that I haven't mentioned them is just because I haven't used them enough. Once I do, they will probably enter this list as well. I also very quickly highlighted some brushes. For me, honestly, I'm not too particular about brushes. I really enjoy the the Princeton and Jackson brushes. I enjoy Princeton Neptune for like more traditional watercolor use where I'm layering and I am using like really watery washes. I like the Aqua Elite if I'm doing something a little bit more controlled. I love the Jackson's one in general. And when it comes to brushes for my gouache is just so low maintenance that I feel like I can use any brush for it, but I enjoy using the Icon Jackson's flat brush. I also have Pro Art brushes. It is what it is, you know, but I will say that I am quite a laissez-faire painter when it comes to brushes. As long as they do the job, I am happy. I'm not spending triple figures on brushes, you know what I mean? And these brushes have served me well, and when it comes to gouache, it's just so forgiving that I feel like I could use any type of brush and it will be fine. And then we come to paper. Oh my gosh, I love paper. However many sketchbooks you think I have, triple that number and you'd probably be closer, because I thought that I had a certain number and I thought my estimate was accurate and it was less than half the reality. So again, another video. But all that to say that once I started using 100% cotton watercolor paper, I couldn't really go back, and I haven't really gone back. When it comes to my absolute favorite papers, one way or the other, it is 100% cotton cold press paper. So in the sketchbooks, it is the Etcher sketchbooks. I am an Etcher ambassador, so if you do buy from Etcher or Jackson's and you use the code that I will leave in the description, then you'll get 10% off. And when it comes to the sketchbook that I use the most, it's kind of in the name, that is the Everyday Sketchbook. It is cold pressed, it has 230 GSM, it has less tooth than traditional cold press paper is the one thing that I will say, but that means that it works well for me using it with a range of different medias, especially if I'm doing like a lot of line work or drawing. It's just so nice and so enjoyable. I love the way that watercolor behaves in it, that gouache behaves in it. I'm able to draw in it without problems. It's just my favorite everyday sketchbook. I absolutely love and adore it. That is the sketchbook that you'll see me using more times than not on this channel. I do also love the Signature series sketchbook that has 100% cotton Fabriano Artistico paper and creme de la creme. That has like some really nice cold press texture. It is a more premium sketchbook, and thus I do tend to be more precious with it, but it is just so wonderful. And then another sketchbook that I mentioned is the Caddy Fat book. Now for this one, I will say it's 100% cotton rag, and so because it's cotton rag and it's thinner, I think it's 100 GSM, it's the kind of sketchbook that I can use to mess around, basically to try out different techniques, to try out different experiments, to try out different materials. I don't tend to try to create finished pieces in there. Like there's a lot of paintings and things that I have created in there that I actually really liked, but that just happened. It's not like I went out of my way to create finished pieces, but it is just a really nice low pressure sketchbook that will handle watercolor and most wet mediums very well. It has got a lot more texture, so if you know I'm doing like pencil work, for example, that texture for me is a little bit too rough for it. But if I'm painting or if I'm doing, it's also a bit too thirsty for gouache, I will say, but if I'm using watercolor primarily, then it's a really nice low pressure place to just paint in. And if I'm doing like mixed media abstract work as well, really nice to work in. It does have imperfections. It is thin, but you get so many pages. It's a true workhorse of a sketchbook, and it's a sketchbook that I use in a more traditional sense of like sketchbook full of rough sketches. Really do enjoy that sketchbook as well. And then I also mentioned the Saunders paper. That paper, creme de la creme texture, cold press, 100% cotton, comes in a whole different ranges. I have the blocks, and I, to be honest, reserved them for more finished pieces because the paper is so nice. But I also have some of the sketchbooks that I haven't necessarily mentioned because they're wire bound and I don't prefer wire bound sketchbooks. That being said, for the price, I couldn't say no. Like this, like the paper is just so nice. If you've used Saunders Waterford paper, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you haven't, they do also have sample packs so that you can try them out and see if they are right for you. And then, of course, I also had to mention Fabriano Artistico paper because I also love that paper. And it is also the paper in the signature series sketchbook by Etcher, which again, I really very thoroughly enjoy. When it comes to supplies that I like to add to complement my watercolors and my gouache, those are both Caran d'Ache actually, and that's luminance pencils, which I know is overkill, but I love what I love. And then also Neocolor 2 water soluble pastels. Again, I love using them for adding extra details and textures. Then some other pencils that I love are the Derwent Inktense pencils, adding details on top. And there are a few special mentions here and there. I love the Etcher Golden watercolors. I love the Stay Wet palette for my gouache, which just made painting with gouache more accessible because they were there and ready to paint with, and that is a joy to work with, and it just makes life easier than carrying 16 tubes around. I don't doubt that this list will change and evolve as my art practice and I continue to change and evolve, but for now, this is most of it. You'll have to check out the page for the full thing. But yeah, thank you so much for making this possible. I really appreciate you. Now, if you are watching, you are a real MVP. And I'm keep getting questions about what that means. So to highlight, MVP in sports, I believe means most valuable player. I'm saying like most valuable person, most valuable painter. You are the person that lets me know that I'm not talking to myself. You are the person who watches the video in the entirety. You are the person who is kind and encouraging, who gets my sense of humor to I assume. But essentially you are the most valuable person because you are what makes this community a community. Because otherwise I wouldn't be able to do it if I thought I was just talking into the ether, you know. So that's what an MVP is. It's you. And if you are still watching, you are an MVP. Now, let me know that you're still watching by telling me what your favorite watercolor is, and then I'll know, you'll know, and everybody else watching will know that you are a real MVP. Welcome to the community. Now, if you love this video, you will definitely love this series of next ones where I highlight my favorites from last year. Thank you so much for watching. God bless and goodbye.